Alright, I know this shirt's gonna end up slightly funky with the green screen effect. I don't care, it's too perfect. This may seem like an odd time to come out with a Game of Thrones list, but honestly I think it's the perfect time to tackle the specific line that I want to talk about. Which is that as the show has gotten bigger and more expansive, there are certain plot points that seem to have dropped off and been forgotten about. Some have always been relatively minor, some seemed pretty important, but the show seems to have gone, whatever, we don't need that anymore. Now it is possible that some or maybe even all of the things I'm about to talk about will in fact be picked up again and become a through line by the time the show wraps up. I don't know, but so far there's no indication on any of this. I know 7's a bit of an awkward number, but I couldn't come up with 10, so here we go. Number 7, Nymeria. This would be Arya's direwolf. Obviously at one point all the Stark kids had direwolves. Some of those wolves are still alive, some of them are dead. Nymeria is a bit of an odd one though, because she was specifically released and set free to avoid getting killed. And you'd think that the dog would like hang around and reconnect with Arya at some point, and I suppose it's possible that could still happen, but she just kind of vanished. Like to the point of, okay, why was she saved? I mean, I get that, you know, she was saved, Lady was killed in his place, sort of formed more of a rift between Sansa and her father. I guess I get that, but it seemed weird that the wolf got free and that's never factored into anything. Hasn't even been mentioned that the wolf's like out there terrorizing local countryside. It's just, no, wolf's free and gone. Bye. Number 6, rebelling cities. It got mentioned a number of times since Joffrey took the throne, you know, during that whole war for the Iron Throne, and even after he was dead and Tommen took over, that various cities across the nation have been rebelling. And it's not something we've ever really seen. I mean, I'm not talking about the North going against King's Landing. There was mention of, you know, just individual cities rebelling and sort of fighting against the King's Guard or whatnot, and we've never seen any of that. I mean, I understand that sort of thing is the sort of thing that the show tends to not show too much of because battles are expensive, especially if they involve a lot of people. But it's weird that it was ever even brought up because it doesn't seem to have factored into anything either. It's not like those rebelling cities, like their resources ever got taken on and used by somebody else who was important and somebody we knew. It's odd that it was ever dropped in as something that was going on. Number 5, Rickon and Osha. This is one I'm not sure I actually want this picked up because Osha I kind of liked, but Rickon never added anything. But at the same time, they're still alive. And, you know, Rickon as a surviving Stark is theoretically important for that reason, if nothing else, but no real indication that we're ever going to find out what ever happened with them. I mean, obviously, Bran will come back, and then we'll find out more what's going on there. Rickon, Osha, not a lot of indicators there. I mean, I'm not sure what there is to actually do with them, but since there isn't really anything to do, why did they need to live? I mean, I'm not saying that like I'm bloodthirsty, like, well, if you're not going to use them, just kill them. But given how readily the show does kill people, when it goes out of its way to make sure certain characters live and then doesn't use them again in any way, it's a little weird. Number 4, Walder Frey. Now, I'm fairly confident that he's gonna be dealt with again at some point, but since the show opted not to include Lady Stoneheart, I'm not sure who there is to even, like, get Walder Frey involved in things again. I mean, nobody really has any investment in dealing with him. I mean, I suppose it's possible. I mean, the show, you know, very much is, you know, sometimes the world's unfair and people get away with stuff. Maybe we'll just never deal with it and he'll just kill the Starks and that's it. But that's kind of a kick in the balls, isn't it? And even if we don't deal with him in a sort of, we need revenge for the Starks way, I mean, he's always kind of held an important chunk of land. You'd think he'd come up again at some point. I don't know. Number 3, Gendry. Robert's bastard son, whose blood was so vital to the Woman in Red's magic, and then was sent off in a boat. I'm sure he's fine. I don't know. Again, that's another case where it's weird that the show left him alive and then did nothing with him. Again, much for the same reason that I brought up Nymeria and Rickon and Osha. I mean, the show is just so casual about killing characters. I was going to say killing characters who serve no function, but even killing characters who have a vital function. So you'd think that characters left alive would be important, but there's been no indicator of him coming back or doing anything, no word, no anything, and it's been a while now. I'm not sure we're getting him back. Number 2, Brothers Without Banners. Now this is a weird one to me because when they were first introduced, I liked them a heck of a lot more than I liked Lady Melisandre in terms of servants of the Lord of Light who were wielding magic. I found them way more interesting. So the fact that they've never come back has really kind of bothered me, especially since there's all this emphasis put on, you know, they can raise people from the dead, and there's this one guy who seems to be losing bits of himself every time he comes back, and none of that returns? I mean, I suppose it could just be setting up that people can have this ability and then, you know, establishing that Lady Melisandre is connected to them. You know, there's all the theories that she's gonna raise Jon or whatever else, so who knows? So maybe they were only there to establish things that were possible, but they're just a cool group, and it seems like a waste not to actually have them come back. And what's more, they felt like they had an agenda, like they had things they wanted to do, and those things, if they were successful, were going to impact the characters we're still following. So did they just go on vacation? But finally, the one that has been driving me crazy, Blackfish. Not a Stark per se, but a relative of those characters, and who was there at the Red Wedding but left to go take a piss, was not killed at the Red Wedding, and actually at the start of the following season, they even made a point of saying he got away, we don't know what happened to him. So not only did you not show him die, you made an extra point of going, this guy's still alive, ooh. I'm sure it matters. Maybe. We're bored with him, forget it. I mean, it's just, again, this one much more so than all the other ones that I pointed out where characters live but then don't seem to have a function. Like, the show reminded us that he is still alive, and yet has done nothing with him for years now. Again, maybe he'll come back. Maybe all these things will come back and it'll all wrap up, especially maybe in this last season. Everything comes to a head. All the loose strands come back together and I'll look at the whole scope of the thing and go, wow, it was worth the wait of 3, 4 seasons, however long it was, for that thing to come back and into play. But I think there's actually a fairly good chance that as the show went along, the people behind it realized, no, we actually don't really need to pay that off. We want to focus on other things, and are just going to let these things drop. Any thoughts on any of these dangling plot threads that the show has currently left us? Do you think any of these will get resolved? Do you want any of them to be resolved? Do you not care about any of these? Whatever your thoughts on the whole thing, drop something down in the comments and let's talk about it. Until next time, this council is adjourned.